It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission really is to inspire. Isn't that amazing? It's really to empower you, the entrepreneur, the hardworking individual that gets up every single day to make a difference in the world with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Kristal Frazier, and we'll be talking about, the fear of speaking. What's going on, Kristal? How are you?
I'm good, Shay. Hey, everybody. I'm so glad to be here and tell you about my journey and share some tips with you as well.
Well, I'm glad you're here, but we got to address the elephant in the room before we get started because they're already the fear of speaking. And I know many people are raising their hand. They're saying, yep, that's me. In fact, I don't even want to speak, right? I'm not trying to be a speaker. I hate even talking in front of folks. I like talking one-to-one. I feel you. I'm with you. So my question to you today is, from your view of the world, why do people still have a fear of speaking? With so much online stuff these days, why do we still fear public speaking?
Well, it's very interesting. It's for a few reasons. The first thing is really your upbringing will have something to do with it. I grew up an introvert, and it took me a long time, I would say well into my 20s, that I got out of the shell that I was in. Another reason is the imposter syndrome. We just sometimes think we're not good enough to do the work, the task, whatever that we're called to do. We doubt ourselves. And so I started as a fundraiser and I was doing grant writing and I was called to speak. I had to do the fundraising speech. I was terrified and I had to learn a way to overcome that fear of people rejecting me, the audience not resonating with what I say. And it was a mentor who understood what I was going through and told me, you have a natural ability to have conversation. It's conversation that makes the difference. It's conversation that made me a successful fundraiser. It's having a conversation with people, and it's not as scary as you think.
It's not as scary as you think. Yep, coming from the person that this is what she does all day long. They might be wondering, well, how do you even overcome fear? Don't worry, we'll get into all about the fear of speaking, and they're reading your bio right now. They'll see how famous you are. But since you brought up the word fear, they might be wondering, Shay, how does she deal with fear? How does she overcome fear? And how is she able to take a step forward even when there's uncertainty?
Well, the first thing is you have to understand who you are as a person. Are you a person that thrives under pressure, or are you a person that methodically needs to plan out and think what you are going to say? I am the former. I thrive under pressure. So when I'm pressed to make a speech, when I'm pressed to say something about my cause, I find a way to make it about the audience, about the people I'm speaking to versus me. So for instance, if I'm a fundraiser and I'm making the ask, which is asking for donations, money from funders and major donors who can give you hundreds of thousands of dollars for your organization and up until the millions for your org. These are big questions you're asking them to support you. The way that you get over your fear of speaking is realizing that your audience needs to hear what you say more than your fear of looking at them and understanding what, looking at your what you're dressed in, what your mannerisms, what you're saying. If you trip over your words, none of that matters. Your message is more powerful, is more motivating for you than anything else because it's probably trivial what you're thinking about. So there's a hierarchy to how you think about speaking. And at the very top is your message.
Now, as you said that, there's some folks saying, Shay, you just jumped right into it. We got that. And some folks said, Shay, haven't read her bio, Shay. So can you slow down for a moment? Can you allow her to tell us a little about her backstory and what was the pivotal moment because she's doing a couple of cool things here. We got the FundJoy, that's pretty cool. We got the assertive ask or ask assertive, that's another thing. But what's her
Mhm.
backstory? Who is this person? What was that pivotal moment where
Oh,
she knew, no, I've accomplished it,
yeah.
but now I want to share and teach other people. So, the question, who are you? What's the backstory?
Ah, well, what's the backstory? It is very interesting because my backstory and my background is I started off in journalism. I was writing story after story, had a blog, and I was always passionate about my words, conveying them to other people, moving people to feel something and understand something outside of their norm, open their mind. And I took one grant writing class. This is how I got into fundraising. I took one grant writing class and I realized that my words could raise millions. And that is exactly what happened. I took that class. I got my first grant in my internship. And it was only $5,000. It was very small back then, but it meant everything to that organization. And ever since then, I said, you know what? My words carry power. And from writing, I did my first fundraising speech. I had other nonprofit professionals asking me to write their speeches to help them with their speaking engagements, helping them represent their cause. And that's what I do now. I have helped organizations raise over $200 million many years later. I love what I do. And that all started from just the passion taking over my fear of speaking. It meant more. Your passion means more than your fear.
What do you enjoy most about what you're doing now?
What I'm doing now is the teaching aspect. So I teach students, nonprofit professionals, startup companies, because they're pitching to investors. So every word they're saying matters. Within 5 minutes, they got to make it happen. Sales teams, universities, and I love what I do. And I realize that I'm only one person, so I've licensed courses to universities and organizations for them to use with their teams, their development teams, to help them stand in their truth and raise millions.
Yeah, raise millions is important because it takes funds to execute visions that folks have out there. And you brought up a word, purpose, and purpose means different things to different people. So take a
Mm.
moment and talk about what does purpose mean. You said, hey, you found your passion. And I thought I heard purpose, but maybe it was just passion. But take a moment and what does passion look like? What does it mean for you today and for most folks? And how does that relate to purpose? And because I think that's some of the things that's kind of fueling this joy that you kind of have that we can hear coming through the power of these fiber optic lines while you're talking right now. We're like, oh, she likes this stuff, Shay. She loves this stuff. Like she was born to do this.
Oh, let me tell you, it is so funny. This is how you know your purpose. I'm going to tell you a really quick story of how you know, because this is how I knew. Purpose was this huge enigma before this happened for me. And when it happened, I said, oh, this is what I want to do because I'm naturally great at it. And when I finish speaking, when I finish training and helping other people, there's a fire inside of me like nothing else. So I am going to tell you how you know. I did my very first speech for an organization I work for, my very first fundraising mentor in the fundraising sector. And it was maybe, I think we had 5 or 6 minutes. This is the first one. So please, if you got to laugh, laugh now. It was my first one. I did the best I could. It was horrible, Shay. It was horrible. My entire team told me it was horrible. And I'll never forget, my boss came up to me and she said, that could use some work. You're talking about fundraising, you're passionate about raising money, but your speech needs a little bit of work. And she says, I really want you to take some time to think about doing it again next month. I couldn't wait to do it again. It was awful. I bombed. The audience didn't understand anything I was saying. I didn't even finish my speech. I couldn't wait, Shay, to do it again. I loved being in front of the audience and conveying my message. I knew I was horrible at first because I let the fear take over, but I knew the talent was there. I knew it was there. And I said, I love doing that. And she said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, I want to do it again." She says, "I think you're going to be a speaker." The rest is history. I married the two of fundraising and speaking and training, and it's what I do and it's what I love.
Wow. Well, before we get into the ask side, because that was very powerful. If someone said, "Hey, Shay, could you give us a summary? Could you give me like three things that I could do to help overcome the fear of
Mhm.
speaking?" Right. And I know it's an unfair question, but you can handle it. Like, what are three things? You're like, if you're out there now and you need to take notes, and a number of folks that are tuned in now, by the way, they're dualpreneurs. Some of these folks work full-time jobs, they're full-time
Correct.
entrepreneurs. They're individuals. Some of them
Mhm.
take care of their family. Some take care of their community. And they're like, Shay, I've got to speak, whether it's at a community meeting, whether it's at something else. So what are three things, like three ideas that she can give me that can help me not only overcome this fear of speaking,
Oh,
but maybe that I can include in my little talk that can kind of help me out. Because, she's on
yeah.
here now, Shay. So ask her. So I'm asking.
Okay. So I'll give you three. The first, and this is in no particular order, they are all important. Okay. So the first one is realize that practice pushes fear away. My first speech was nothing like my 100th speech. Okay. Yes, I kept track of them. It does not look the same. Why? Because it's practicing. It's not practicing in front of a mirror. It's practicing on Zoom. It's practicing in front of someone live. It's getting your message down to those bullet points that matter. The second thing that I do, so the first one is practice pushes fear away. The second one is you do any presentation, whether you have a startup and you are in front of investors, whether you are a nonprofit professional and you are doing a pitch presentation in front of a funder or a major donor. If you are part of a sales team and you're talking about your services, whatever you are doing, do the rule of one, three, and five. Let me get the five in there. Hold on. There we go. The one, three, and five. Anything you do, you have the major one point you want to make before that presentation ends. You have three bullet points: a beginning, a middle, and an end. Your five is anecdotes, stories, you know, experiences, your journey. That's what you put within your presentation. The one, the three, the five to make it click for them. That's how we remember things in one, three, or five. The next one is, so the first one we have practice pushes past fear. The one, three, and five, when you do any talking point, any presentation, any pitch, if you're a nonprofit professional, if you're doing a pitch presentation for a fund, anything like that, one, three, or five. The third one is that you have got to pour into yourself and do professional development. It truly takes a village to make who you want to be. It does. Whether you are a part of an association, I belong to several mastermind groups, several associations. The only reason my career is where it is because I pour into those friendships, those networks, and I practice, I hone my craft. Understand that it is not overnight. We are here 12 to 13 years later now from the speech I told you about. That was my very first. It really is truly a journey. I promise you, because I waited so long doing it by myself. Don't do it alone. Okay. There's an association that will represent who you are and will help you along the way. Webinars, getting all of that knowledge. And one other tip, Shay, I want to tell people because it's exciting when you find your association and you find your people, and it's rejuvenating to know
Yeah.
you're not alone in this journey of entrepreneurship. Remember, everything that you're taking in, the training, the tips, the strategies, you have to check it against what you want out of your life. If it's applicable to you, because everything won't be, but maybe some of it will. So those are my 3 tips.
So well said. Thanks a lot. And you have something you trademark, assertive ask. I think it's yours. Where did that come from? What's the backstory to that? Because that's the second part. So he has a whole fear of speaking, but then she has this whole system called, I think it's called, is it ask assertive or assertive ask? I might have got it backwards.
Assertive ask. You're correct. Assertive.
Assertive ask. Tell us the backstory of that and what's the mission, goals, and objectives of it.
Absolutely. So Assertive Ask is a licensed trademark system and owned by my company, FundJoy LLC. And it is a fundraising system and a confidence system. So I'll give you an example. Assertive Ask came out of me doing a fundraising script for organizations. When I first started to make the ask and to go to investors, funders, donors representing these organizations, I had to figure out a way to be different. You know, it's versus grant writing. When you turn in a grant application, you're one of 100 or sometimes 250. When you are asking in person, online, via Zoom, you are one of 20, 25, 50, and it can even be 100. How do you stand out? You stand out by being direct and assertive. And so that's where assertive ask comes from. There's several components to that. The first one is zero embarrassment speaking. I teach people how to have no embarrassment when they're on stage, when they're online, whether they're making an ask or they have that pivotal career changing speech that they have to craft. The zero embarrassment speaking. And then we have the Assertive Ask signature program. That's the program where I teach you how to ask and have confidence in conversations. And that leads us to the next one, which is confidence in conversations. There are hard conversations that we're going to have in our life, and we are not built solely to have careers. We have families, we have hobbies, we have passions, we have obligations and dreams. And you are going to have hard conversations. And I swear, Shay, every monumental moment in my career, I can tie it to something that was happening that I was struggling with in my personal life. If it's family, in the beginning, definitely finances. My goodness, that was a huge one. I have children, they're now adults. That work life balance that really does not exist. It's just not true. It's not work life balance. It's the doing your best, doing the best you can. That's what I did when I was raising my kids. You do the best you can. You want to have dreams, you got a career, you have your kids. Those are all the hard things that you deal with when you want to have these huge dreams, these big goals, when you want to crush them in your career. It's always something going on extra. So learning to navigate all of that is also a part of the system because we're not built in silos. We are multifaceted people. And the last part is what's important to funders, donors, any conversation you have is the culture that we have now. So DEI is a part of that, and it's called DEI Donor Connection. Making sure that you are using tact with your words, the timing of when you're asking for things and having conversations, and the tone that you use. So tact, tone, and timing is the last integral part of that.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks a lot for sharing. Assertive ass. I mean, it's powerful.
Yes.
At the end, I'm going to tell folks how they can connect with you. And I'm curious as they're listening to you and all this greatness, they might be wondering, wow, Shay, where was the time that she had some challenge in her life as well? And we do have a segment here called Today is My January 1st, which I think is a great segue, by the way. But today is my January 1st for those that are listening and those that tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know what we're going to do. You can go ahead and say those words. Today, that's right, today is my January 1st. Doesn't that feel good? Happy New Year to you. And for all the new folks who are joining for the very first time, we want to welcome you to the family. Today is my January 1st is a personal mantra we have here at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It stands for a do-over. It stands for a fresh start. It means our past, no matter what the past is, it no longer equals the future. So my question, as I'm sitting there right now, over is when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And what was a time in your life that there was some setbacks, some challenges you had to bounce back from?
Oh my goodness. Well, I will tell you first of all, I love the concept of today is my January 1st, a do-over, a fresh start. I love that, a reigniting of passion and everything. And I think recently, one of the setbacks that I have dealt with within the last few years is my parents passing. My mother passed first, and also my dad passed in 21. And so dealing with that, it was interesting because Shay, I had 3 speaking engagements within like a month's time, maybe about 2 months' time after my
Mm-hmm.
mother passed. And I felt like I was a zombie and could not function. And I canceled every last one of the speaking engagements. I could not do it. And with my dad passing, it became even worse. And I think the concept of having a January 1st, what I would do different if everything I could do over is I would give myself grace. I would give myself grace to understand that I did the best I could because I was beating myself up mentally for it. Not concentrating on my career. I've always been task driven, goal oriented, and an overachiever. And that is something that I thought I could just come back after the funeral and get going. There was no way. I would give myself grace. Today's my January 1st. I will go forward with understanding that I did the best I could. And that's why I created a talk. I have a talk called Remembering Joy. My mother's name was Joyce. And Remembering Joy, the talk, is about you are in this place you are now because you're supposed to be there. It's okay if you are doing the best you can. And I go over seven or 8 points of how to get past that grief when you're trying to make all of your other dreams come true. When you're doing your family, your friends, your business, how to navigate all of that and be a successful speaker, entrepreneur, your business, sales teams, nonprofit professionals, what I deal with. It can be so overwhelming when you're going through grief. So remembering my joy was very important. So my January 1st is today. I would wash all of that away and know I did the best I could to go forward.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being so transparent. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I guess as we come down the home stretch, I guess the question is, what type of clients does your firm work with these days? If you're looking to take on any clients, I don't know, you might be booked. I'm not sure. And then number two, how can folks best connect with you over and beyond this conversation that you and I are having right now?
Yes, absolutely. Well, one of the ways that you can connect is FundJoy is no longer a fundraising firm. So we also do confidence training, speaker coaching. So one of the ways that you can connect with me is the Speak Up Network. So the Speak Up Network is when I do webinars, workshops, speaking engagements, people who are looking to have that confidence and understand that they need help with that, or if they're looking for a community that's not going to judge them, that's not harsh, that understands that we're all trying to get better. I'm almost 12 to 13 years later in the game with this, and it's still a journey. It's still a journey. There is no perfection in the Speak Up community. So that is one way. KristalFrazier.com is another. My name is spelled very different, and I know Shay will have that information. My mother
Yes.
wanted me to be special, so I mean, hey, she spelled it completely different from what you are thinking right now. So, KristalFrazier.com is definitely one way to find out everything that I'm doing. The Speak Up Network, about Assertive Ask, the license program that you can purchase, and that's usually for universities, colleges, sales teams, businesses, and organizations. If you want your people to learn fundraising the right way, to speak with confidence and without fear, and have every word carry power, then that is where you want Assertive Ask. So that is also at assertiveask.com. And so join me on LinkedIn. That is my one and only social network that I am on, active, and you can send me messages and connect with me there as well.
But first, let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. You have a heart to give and a heart to serve, and you're making a difference with folks. Every time you make an ask, you generate funds and revenue that people can use to impact lives across the world. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Shay, for inviting me. Absolutely.
And thank you, the viewer. Thank you for tuning in, because without you, there is no show, by the way. And I never get tired. Every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I never get tired of saying these words, that you are truly amazing. If you haven't heard it, you're awesome. That you've got greatness so much buried inside you, that for you, today is your January 1st. And because of that, your best is still yet to come. Isn't that encouraging? Your best is still yet to come. They ain't seen your best yet. My name, for those who forgot, is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And I promise you, from the bottom of my heart, we'll make some good things how we connect. Bye-bye. We wish you success. Peace. We out.